Trustee Verma.
Present.
Trustee Teasdale, present. Trustee Checkeye, absent excuse. Student Representative Matthew.
Present.
And Student Representative Wang.
Present.
If we could all stand for the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to take a look at the agenda, do an overview of the agenda. Any comments, any changes? If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve it.
So moved. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve tonight's agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the agenda as presented is unanimously approved. Item number 4, consent agenda. Any comments? Any questions? Trustee Margolis.
I have a question on the minutes from last meeting on page 6. There was an item here, and it's a little ambiguous, and I apologize, I wasn't in attendance to be part of the conversation, but there was a conversation relative to moving from monthly financial reporting to quarterly. Was that just a discussion? Was there any action taken?
It was just a discussion and a suggestion.
No action was taken.
No action was taken.
Good, okay.
Yes.
Any comments, questions? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition? Hearing none, the consent agenda as presented is unanimously approved. Item number 5, correspondence. Julie, it looks like we have a couple items of
We
correspondence
do.
tonight.
We have 2 correspondence that we received. The first is a thank you letter from Greg Morris, Recreation Supervisor for the Novi Parks Recreation and Cultural Services Department. This was a thank you for the library taking part in the Fire Up Festival that occurred in September. Great event for us to connect with our teen population and to be a part of a city event. And we also took part in giving some part of our programming money towards some inflatables and for us to be a more active part of the program. So we were happy to take part in that. And then the second correspondence was an email received on October 10th, which was the following day from an author event that we hosted at Novi Library in partnership with the Women's National Book Association. Just a thank you from Annette and Charlie Osborne, which were co-chairs for the event. We had 4 authors at the library, close to 40 in attendance to hear the authors speak about their new books. As you know, this is something new for us that we're providing to the community. This was an ask from our community when we were doing strategic planning that we connect more of our patrons and more of our community with authors. And so we had the opportunity to partner with the Women's National Book Association and host the event at our library. It was very successful for our first time, and I do believe they will keep us on their list for locations in the future.
And I noticed they thought the egg salad was a huge hit.
Yes, yes, it was great to see the cafe actually take part and offer services, and it went very well. I wanted to make sure you saw all the kudos, and I made sure that Gary also saw the thank you as well. It was staff, everyone really rallied, and we had a great experience.
Great, great. Any presentations tonight?
We do not.
Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This is an opportunity for a member from the public to present any information, questions to the board. It's your opportunity to approach the podium and comment if you have any. I don't see anybody from the public rushing up to the podium, so I'm going to move on to the next item. President's report, and that's when we're talking about goals, and I'm going to turn it back to Julie again.
Okay, a few things just to highlight for you this evening. On page 15, obviously from the thank you letter that we received, there was participation in our city's Ethnic Taste and Tune Fest, our Fall for Novi, and our Fire Up Festival that we took part in all 3 of those activities for September. Down a little farther on the page, we are currently developing a survey specifically for technology that we hope to roll out the 1st of November. This will allow us to ask our community what types of things work, what types of things can we offer in the future when it relates to programming, different devices, different ways for us to work with them when it comes to technology and the library. So you will see that information forthcoming, and we look forward to hosting that for the whole month. We'll be gathering information from our community on that. Page 16, I don't have anything there, but on page 17, wanted to let you know that we did make a change, and this is because of MELCAT, the Michigan Electronic Catalog that we're part of, which is a statewide catalog that we're able to access and then bring in materials from different areas of the state of Michigan. There was a perpetual login, which now the timeout is for 7 minutes. It is a little longer now. In this way, what it does is it eliminates the patron who's on the computer having to re-enter their library card numbers more often. It's giving them a little more time to be connected to the system. We did that both with MELCAT, and then we are now offering it for the same amount of time with our catalogs as well. So hopefully that is helping out our patrons at home if they're placing holds. It's giving, they don't have to worry about losing their information as quickly. That actually was something that was brought up during strategic planning and was asked from our patrons to look into to make it a little more easier and friendlier to use. Thanks to our superintendent of the Novi School District, the teen space that we offer after school from 2 to 5, Monday through Friday, received a ping pong table. It was in cooperation with the library and the school district to purchase this table, and it's getting a lot of great use from our teens. So we're happy to report that that's been added to the teen space, and the teenagers are enjoying it. And then at the very bottom, just to let you know that our Department of Public Services provided assistance with removing our read box for the end of the year. Our first time having that available as an outreach opportunity in our community at Lakeshore Park. And they also assisted with some pavement marking and other parking lot issues that we've had currently. We have some new striping that was done as you enter into the building, hopefully directing people better as they come into the library's parking lot. And that's all I have for you this evening.
Okay. Any questions in regard to our goals? Seeing none, moving on to the treasurer's report. Our treasurer is not here tonight. I got an email just before the meeting. I think you did too, Julie.
Yes.
And he had a couple questions that I'll just raise. He had indicated in regard to the $31,810.93 on the balance sheet in terms of that's due to the general fund. Is that something unique, or that just happens to be the end of the month before things get moved over?
I actually need to look into that further. I didn't have a lot of time to review his questions today and would like to respond to all of you tomorrow if that's possible.
Okay.
Okay.
To me, it looked like it's a typical number. It just changes a little bit.
It does normally.
Because of what the end of the month is and where they haven't quite settled all the accounts.
Yes.
But it didn't look really unusual to me,
No,
the number's different.
it's
Okay.
not actually, but I just wanted to make sure, and I wanted to look at everything and sit down. I haven't had a chance to look at all these financials.
Okay. I'll open it up if anybody else had. I looked at them just very briefly tonight, but I don't really have any comments on them either. I don't know if, Trustee Margolis.
I don't know whether I should say, unfortunately, I did have a chance to review, and I do have a few observations that I would like to share here. The first is a question. We have the budget on pages 18 and 19.
Correct.
And I'm somewhat confused as to what the second column is supposed to represent. It is indicated as the 2012-2013 year end, but only the revenue section has year-to-date information. The rest of the information is budgetary information, so it's mixed, so I can't get a sense of whether it's supposed to be an interim end-of-year statement or not. So,
In terms of the budget itself, or
in terms of the presentation,
Correct.
okay, what we have for the current year budget and for the look forward for the next 2 years, the third and fourth column, or the fourth and fifth columns are correct, and they haven't changed.
Right.
It's as we adopted them. It's the look back to where we were. So what we're trying to put in comparative perspective.
Right.
but we're not getting consistent information.
Not yet.
Okay.
We are not going to have, in fact, Victor Cardenas, who's now acting financial director currently with the city until they fill the position, came to the September meeting sharing that it's going to probably take to the end of November, if not December time, for a final audit. The column that's year-end for us is what we projected would be our year-end when we were doing budgetary.
That's what I assumed,
Yes.
except it's not. It's budgetary information on the revenue and expense side. Everything is even dollars. And we don't spend even dollars.
Right. No, you're correct. And until we get that audited report, I won't be able to provide specifics until then.
So
Yes.
my suggestion is if we're not going to be looking backwards at interim year-end numbers, then let's go back at least to last year's approved budget so we keep things comparative.
So we can actually, do you want the year-end to be removed at this time so that it's comparable to the approved a year ago?
I want
and-
consistency.
Okay,
Okay, so either one or the other. They apparently did on the revenue side, not on the, on the revenue side, but not on the expense side.
correct, because we haven't received everything yet. Typically, what I do is, once I receive all the final audits, then I make a final change to this year-end. But again, that won't happen till probably December time, until I have those good numbers.
Now-
I could wait. What would you prefer?
I would prefer for the interim period, just
Okay.
leave the budget for last year
Okay,
as we had adopted. And then when we have the final numbers, we can
Then we-
evaluate how well we did relative to our expectations.
okay,
Okay? But that being said, and I appreciate, I'll put this on the record, I appreciate everything the city is doing on behalf of the library, preparing the financials and taking care of all the accounting work on our behalf. Okay? Did you hear me say thank you very much?
Yes.
Thank you very much. That being said, I expect consistency in terms of the delivery. Now, we were given at the September meeting, or shortly thereafter, August financials.
correct.
We were given now for tonight's meeting, September year-to-date financial information,
Correct.
okay? There is a discrepancy between the year-to-date balances because they changed numbers that were reported through August. If there's gonna be changes, at least alert us to that. We shouldn't have to stumble upon it and find out that there was an additional $26,000 spent.
Right.
More importantly, the tax revenues were not part of the August meeting, and all of a sudden they're built into the history here on the year-to-date basis. So if we're gonna look tonight at where we are for the month of September on its own, it's presumptive that the 3 months year-to-date are accurate.
Correct.
In which case, then, the 2 months that we had in our pocket, we were diluted a little bit. So
Right, right.
if they're gonna deliver financials, be consistent, okay?
I would be
That-
happy to
The first observation.
pass that on.
Now, that being said, with respect to the balance sheet for Fund 268, as was pointed out by the chair, there is this due to other funds, which you're going to get clarification of. There is a difference, like I said, in the balance forward of the unassigned fund balance of $26,658 from where we had reported last month. I'm assuming all those expenditures were legitimate and part of the first 2 months' activity of the year. So for the month of September, there was a reduction in tax revenues of $867. So here we're starting already, but we got credited for $2,283,000, which is above the $2,254,000 that we budgeted for. So absent any more negative changes going forward, we're okay in that regard. There was no investment gain or loss reported last meeting, and the implication is with the September market fluctuation, we gained 12,000, but implied was back in August, we actually had a $15,000 deficit. So on a year-to-date basis, we're down 3,400 in terms of mark-to-market on the investment portfolio. Also, in the revenue section, the library cafe rental, that's 2 months in a row we don't show revenue. That begs the question, is it a timing issue, just reporting, or is there not being payments made by the,
Payments are finally up to date currently, but we were waiting on some checks, yes, but they are now currently up to date. So you will see everything should be, he has until the 15th, and sometimes that doesn't make the time that we're putting the packet together, but there was a delay on his end.
in terms of the expenditures, personnel services for the month were $125,506, or roughly 6.9%. That's a normal month, except that there was a reduction in health insurance of $2,500. That begs the question, was that a census adjustment, or how did that occur?
I'll have to look.
Okay.
Yep.
It's a credit of $2,512. In terms of expenditures for materials and supplies, we spent $44,843 in the month. That's 9.25%. On a year-to-date budget basis, that's 6%, which is in line with our expectations. In terms of services and charges, $23,406 spent for the month, 5.61%. Year-to-date basis, $114,264. That's in line with our normal monthly estimate, about $36,500 per month. So when you combine all the categories, we spent $193,756, or 7.07% for the month. That is 28.7%, which is below our expectation to be just around 30%, and represents 23.3% of revenues. So on a year-to-date basis, we're showing now a deficit of $120,000. Well, it's not really a deficit because all the revenues are front-loaded. If we were to spread the revenues equally,
Right.
we're on a pace to have a deficit of 120, which is still well within our budget allocation. In the Walker Fund, number 269, cash went down by $7,854. Accounts payable went up $982. There was no change in the fund balance other than the revenues versus expenditures, which are down $8,836. Anything else unusual? Again, with respect to unrealized gain or loss on investments, we have for the month almost an $11,000 gain, but implied there was a $13,000 loss for the prior month that wasn't reflected. So on a year-to-date basis, we're up $2,000 mark-to-market on the Walker portfolio. Those are my observations, sir.
I'm going to add one observation that I have, and it's kind of in terms of the difficulty I'm having in terms of the inconsistent presentations, coming. Once again, appreciate everything that the city's done, but if I recall correctly, and it's always dangerous when I'm recalling from about a month ago, but I recall a month ago, we had not recorded in August the property tax revenue.
Correct.
You are right.
Whatever it was. It hadn't been recorded, and we kind of understood that it hadn't been recorded because the payments are made in August. Yet, as I see this now, you look at the year-to-date balance, it's been recorded in the first 3 months, but it wasn't recorded in September.
Correct.
So therefore, they didn't show it in August, and they didn't show it in September, but somehow it's there.
They restated August without telling us.
Right. And that's the general point you were making.
Right.
But I remembered it only from that line item. that if you take these month to month, that they restate them. And that to me is the big number. I don't remember the other ones, but I remember that number. Any other comments or questions?
One other comment, if I may.
Sure,
Again,
Trustee Margolis.
I wasn't part of the conversation last month when the suggestion was made that we move to quarterly analysis. I'm vehemently against it. If for no other reason, it forces us to examine trends as they're happening. It's no different than the captain of the Titanic trying to turn the boat around after he hits the iceberg. I'd rather know that there's something in front of me that I have to deal with, rather than wait 2-3 months to find out, oh, we probably should have done something about it.
I echo your sentiment. I would like to see them on a monthly basis. It's more helpful to me also to be tracking things for the library.
Any further questions, comments in regard to the financials? If not, would like to move on to item number 10, Director's Report. You're up again, Judy.
Okay, and I don't have too much. It was a busy month, but we were out of the building here and there, so the report, and we were putting together the report early, even though the board meeting was actually delayed by a week. First, I want to thank the board for the opportunity for myself and a number of library staff to attend the Michigan Library Association Conference, which took place last week. Trustee Verma joined us and was there for 2 days. It was a wonderful conference. It's always a great opportunity for networking, learning new programs, learning what other libraries are doing. I had the opportunity to present at the conference this year, and that was with our city manager, Clay Pearson. We did a program on libraries and city government and how to work together, and ideas that have come from the two of us and his departments working with the library so wonderfully. I know that Trustee Verma gave me wonderful kudos, so I believe that it was a very good program. I also heard a lot of great feedback from other directors that were part of it. This was the policy summit that we had on Tuesday, which welcomed about 80 attendees, mostly directors from different libraries in Michigan, and I thought it went over very well. We gave them a lot of different ideas to think about, talked about communication, talked about personalities, talked about, evaluating programming and opportunities before moving forward so that you're not duplicating efforts. Looking at ways for us, I think one of the biggest things that we did, and this was now already almost 6 years ago, was joining Engage and bringing the library's information to be part of the Engage magazine. It took some time for us, but I think it was one of the best things we could have ever done to be part of the whole city information piece. And yes.
Well, not to put a monkey wrench in, but one of the issues we had with Engage was delivery to the north side. Have we solved any of that issue?
No.
Oops.
But it is not the city, it is the post office we are working with. So unfortunately, we have carriers that are refusing to take the load and then delivering. That's what we're running into. Then they end up, the good thing though about that is at least they're not being thrown away. They end up back at the post office and then back to the city so that the library can get more copies and we can disperse them as much as possible. So at least, it's not the best situation, but at least we're getting them back and there's no waste, is what I'm seeing. But it was a great opportunity to share. There aren't many cities and libraries, that can say that they work as well as we do, and I'm proud of being part of such a wonderful leadership group and having the strength of our city council and our city manager to appreciate what the library does in its community. And I think we did a really good job of sharing that.
When I mentioned, actually, I was not on the roll what to say, but I couldn't resist myself to say that we were blessed to have a city manager and our library director. At the same time, I told all present there, she's not only the library director, she's the engineer too. Because during the design and the construction, she did a wonderful job. But after that meeting, and about 6-7 people came up, they were directors. They said, yeah, we are a fan of her and this and that. Coming from a trustee, That was surprise to us. She said, that's wonderful. And one of the directors, she came to me, she said, wow, that's wonderful coming from a trustee. She said, but I have a complaint to you. I said, what? I was one of the candidates, you interviewed me. But you didn't tell me that you hired her and not me.
The other part,
Sorry.
the other part that was wonderful is having representation from our board. And I really do think that says a lot coming from our library to go up to our Michigan Library Association, our state association, and show that we show the support of the board to be there. There are some libraries that are able to send their board members, not many, but I truly appreciate you sending someone or a couple people. I know that Trustee Teasdale went last year, and it's good that you see what's going on and you're hearing, you know, and it's not just coming from me, then you can also hear it from other perspectives. And so I thank you for attending and being there with us. It was a great week. We'll be following up with the staff, providing you with a little synopsis of what they took away from the conference as well as myself, and that should be coming in the November packet. So, but thanks again. It's always good to be up there. It was in Lansing, and I'm happy to report in 2015, Novi is the location. So we'll be able to showcase our library and hopefully entertain these librarians very well and show them what a community, relationship with the city and the library has. So we're already thinking big. So, and I will expect, and I know you will be very much a part of it.
Well, I want to thank you, Julie, and the staff for being there and the presentation, and also Trustee Verma. It is tough for us sometimes as
Right.
board members to make that, so I'm really glad that you
No,
could be
right.
there and represent the board and show that we care and we're involved, and you're a great person to do that. So
Yeah.
thank you for me, and I'm sure all the other board members as well.
So the next high is all the authors we've been having in October. We had the Women's National Book Association on October 9th, and that was a great event that we partnered with them. Had, like I said, close to 40 in attendance. Yesterday probably was the end-all be-all of my week, and that was because we partnered with Fox Run, and we had over 150 attendees at Fox Run to hear 3 authors speak for a luncheon. And, you know, we're trying to reach out and get across the 96 highway. And this was our first attempt, and I am just so pleased. We had a wonderful response. Fox Run probably had about 80 attendees from their community, and then another 70 came just from the library community itself. So by putting them together, close to just over 150 attendees. And all the responses that we heard was, this was fantastic. Thank you for bringing these authors to us. The presentations from the authors were amazing. I think everyone left with a wonderful feeling of they've connected with a new writer, hopefully, a new book possibly to check out, and a connection with the Novi Library. It was great to hear new people say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you did this, and I haven't been to the building, and I look forward to it. On the flip side, it was wonderful to see people who are huge supporters from the Fox Run community that do visit the library and use it on a regular basis, and they were big champions yesterday for talking about what we've been doing. It was just a great event, so I'm hoping that we can do more of that. And then coming up in November on the 14th is our finale to the community read. Our books have been flying off the shelf. We have 40 copies, and typically when I look at the shelving in that particular area, the books are gone. You can see the photo behind you. Lots of books are sitting there. Usually the shelves are empty. So people are reading the book. It's by Mark Bonelli. And it's called Detroit, A Good Place to Be. We decided on that Detroit theme just because of what's been going on over the last couple of years. And he will be speaking at the library on November 14th at 7 o'clock. So that'll kind of wrap up this whole author festivities, I guess, for what we've been doing for the fall. And again, that all came from strategic planning. Again, patrons and community members asking the library to do more with author events. And I saw some of those people yesterday at the event we had with Fox Run that were some of those people asking for it. So I think they were very pleased with what we're doing. Then tomorrow my management team and I will be taking part in a leadership training with the city, Leading from Within, Leading Together. It's a behavioral style assessment. So just looking at different styles of leadership, understanding each other's leadership styles. It's like a 360 where you go through the process and then you'll even receive feedback from leadership colleagues on what's good, what's bad, what you can improve on. So I look forward to that. I always look for, feedback on how we're doing and how we can interact better with our city partners. The new hours have been going very well. I'm happy to report to you that, at first when we started it in early September, it was quiet at 5 o'clock, from 5 to 6 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays, but that is no longer the case. And Sundays, they are now waiting at the door at noon instead of 1. So I think that's taken on very well. People are knowing that we're open and available to them, and it's going well. I'm bringing a policy to you, just a revision of policy, which we'll talk about under matters for consideration. It's in regard to information and reference services. And then just the last thing to report to you is that we are currently looking at our group study rooms and how they can be maximized more for usage. So I hope to be bringing back some information to you probably in late November, if not the December meeting, about where we're going. I have a committee working on it. We've done some surveys. We're now working with the staff to get their feedback. We're soliciting other libraries to find out what type of policies they have for small group usage of tutor rooms and the ways that they use those rooms, and then we'll be bringing it back to you. There, as you can see from Margie Karp-Operer's report, lots of programming that has gone on in the last month. Just pretty much every day and almost every hour of the day, there is something going on at our library, which is pretty exciting. And I know that our teen reps will be talking about some of their programming, so I won't take that from them. But we've had some great featured collections as well. Night of the Living Dead and ABC 123 are some of the book collections that have been on display the last month. And then building operations from Mary Ellen Mulcrone. Things are going very well, as you can see from the report. They did bring the read box in. We have also looked at with our parking lot, and we've started addressing our HVAC issues, which are being taken care of. Some of the fire code issues that we brought up when we had our building committee meeting, and things are moving forward. So I'm happy to report that to you. Great numbers again this month. If we look at page 26, doing very well with cards issued. In fact, for September, which was library card sign-up month, 491 new cards went out to new patrons. Those are not renewals, those are new cards. Items checked out, 64,664. So again, good numbers that we're seeing, and lots of borrowing and loaning to our other libraries. I don't have final numbers for you of the read box yet, but I will make sure to have them for you for the next month. Page 27, again, doing very well with our checkouts and our usage of our self-checkout machines. We are holding at about 60% with usage of those, which is a little higher than what we've had in the past. Usually that's in the 50s. So right now doing very well. Our hours, and we're seeing on an average 1,252 people on an average for the month. Page 28, these are your computer logins and the wireless activity, as you can see, lending laptops, different things that we're reporting to you now in relation to technology. And then on page 29, our early literacy workstation usage. As you can see, it dropped a little bit, but I expect that because the summer, the kids have the opportunity to come in more often and have the free time. So now with school back in session, I could understand why those numbers would be down a little bit. Page 30 and 31. 30 is tech times and different ways that we're reaching out to the community for one-on-ones and different types of technology trainings for them. And then page 31, these are our music is our Freegal downloading. Overdrive is our books, a little bit of music, but mostly book downloading. And then Zydio is our magazine. So again, all new opportunities to reach us digitally at the library. Page 32 is our charging station information, so a little bit of activity for the month. And then meeting rooms, again, we're up. So we are doing fantastic with our meeting room usage at the library as well. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Not a question, but just a comment, on a kind of a follow-up on the author event at Fox Hills yesterday. When I was in Traverse City about 2 or 3 months ago, there was an article in the local newspaper about Therese Iries, who wrote the 1,000-Letter Home.
She
And I said,
was
boys,
there.
that sounds great, because it was held at the Traverse City Library. I said, that sounds great, so it was kind of nice to, and I was kind of, maybe we could get her to come here type of thing.
We
And
did.
it was one of the events yesterday, so.
She was
I'm-
probably the favorite.
Okay.
And this is an author that she had found 1,000 letters in a trunk that her father left. These were letters he wrote home to his wife when he was in World War II. So just amazing, a love story, tragedy, you know, him losing friends while he was in the war. And she was a phenomenal speaker, just amazing. I mean, she touched everyone in the room. There were tears, and she only spoke for about 20 minutes. So she was fantastic. Yep, she's actually making the circuit. She's doing very well, and I was so glad that we could have her part of our panel. We also had Monica Wood. She came from the East Coast, from Portland, Maine, and then and she wrote a book called When We Were the Kennedys. Basically, her autobiographical story of her family and how it related to the Kennedy family, and and what was going on in her home at the same time of the assassination of President Kennedy in 1963. And we are coming up on our 50th anniversary in November, so it was a nice fit to bring her in. And then the third author was Allison Leota, and she is sex crimes and litigation. She was a prosecutor in DC for a number of years, a graduate of MSU, which that was exciting, and has left being attorney to be writing full time. They call her the female Grisham, so she's getting a lot of praise with her books, and there's a definite following for those types of murder type, mystery type books. And we were pleased to have her as well. So there were 3 totally different authors, came from totally different, ideas and backgrounds, and yet all 3 of them meshed really well yesterday at the event.
Good. Any comments, questions, anything else?
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 12, Friends Report, if there is one.
Yep, there's just a couple things. This was from their draft minutes, so I just want to make sure that you're aware. These are just draft. They had their meeting last week and then approved, but unfortunately, I haven't seen the approved yet in case there were any changes. But just wanted to highlight a couple things. One is the amount of programming that's coming up that they've already had in September or coming up in October and December. They had last night, actually, we had a ghost program, which brought in close to 80 attendees for the event, and obviously around Halloween. It went over very well, and that was the Historical Commission and the Friends partnering. But they've had some wonderful success with the programs that they've been bringing in. The history of Saunders went over very well. That was a huge hit. And then the music of Harold Arlen, that actually was postponed. We have to reschedule that one. And then they have the Motown hits coming in December, which I think will be a great hit as well. So they've done some great programming. And then also wanted to point out that the month of August saw record sales of $1,900 in the bookstore. So they're doing very well in their bookstore. They've got a great crew. They're getting through books. They're making sure that what's going on the shelves is very appealing to those book buyers. And they're doing a great job. And then also wanted to let you know that they did approve the memorandum, just as you did. So we'll be getting some signatures now. So everybody has approved.
Good.
Yeah. That's all I have.
No questions? Next item, item 12, Student Representative Report.
So September has been a banner month for attendance, and we have seen over 1,000 teens and tweens at the library. Our first TAB meeting of the year was on September 13th, and we introduced and created new programs for the fall. We saw 13 teens at this meeting, and following the TAB meeting, there was a pizza taste-off, which had a total of 36 students. We also had a college planning program that saw a total of 11 teens and 16 volunteers at the library to help out with various needs. At the Fire Up Fest, we saw 100 teens, and this month we have been giving library tours to the students of Novi Meadows, and altogether we have seen 110 of students.
And then the Teen Space has been going well with over 20 sessions. We've had 838 students using the teen space, so that's been great. And then for upcoming programs, we have the TAB meeting on November 1st at 3:30, and then the Enders Game book discussion on November 1st, and taiko drumming on November 9th. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions for student representatives?
Just trying to figure out what taiko drumming is.
It's Japanese drums.
It's like with those really, really big drums. And,
Okay.
yeah.
Cool.
Thank you, thank you. Historical Commission report.
So you have some information in front of you. The one thing that I really wanted to just bring to attention today is their new brochure, which the Historical Commission worked with the city of Novi to put together. This has been a labor of love for a while. They've been working on this, and I'm so proud to see it finally completed and now available to the public. It points out a number of historical landmarks, a map is included, so it allows people to tour our city and look for those historical places to visit or to be to learn about, which I think is great. The Historical Commission has just done a fabulous job. They've got a great group of leaders there, and they've really moved along just a ton of new programming and opportunities for them to be noticed in the community. And this is just one more piece that expresses that they are out there and they're a viable committee, and they're working hard to keep hold of and to express Novi's history. So it's very exciting for us to have this put together now and to have something to give out to people who are interested in Novi's history.
Where would this be in the library in addition to the historical room? Do we have this where our other information is available, or like even
yes.
posting this on the wall somewhere with the thing?
We haven't posted it, but we can, because we've got an area we can do that. But the information service desks do have copies of this along with the historical room.
Okay. That's great.
So isn't that great? I know, it's a beautiful, beautiful piece. And I can thank the city's communication department and Cheryl Walsh and her staff for helping us put this together.
That's very nice. Any committee reports?
There are none today.
Okay. Moving on to item number 15, this is another opportunity for members of the public to address this board with any comments or any questions. I don't see any members of the public rushing up to the podium, so we're going to move on, which is item 16, matters for board action. Policy 6, information and reference services.
So the purpose of me bringing back this policy for revision is to be more specific about what we can do at the library when it comes to information services. It's been 3 years since we've looked at the current policy, which was adopted in May of 2010. And with the changing needs of our community, both business-related, medical-related, especially in relation to the Affordable Care Act, and the role I think the library is now playing with that, with people coming in, needing information, needing to use computers, needing to access a lot of personal information or using personal information when they're in the library. We wanted to be a little more specific as to what we could provide to the community. And sometimes I'm not for policies that are verbose, but I really felt that we needed to change what we currently had so that we could explain a little more to the public what we could be available for. We also wanted to make sure that we met their expectations when they came to us and they were looking for information, which is why we explained a little bit about how we go through a process. When we get a phone call, we tend to take the person who's actually in person first, return a phone call, just so they understand that it's not that they're less important, but sometimes that immediate help there at the desk and someone in person, it's just easier to take that role first and then go back. So we wanted to explain some of that now. And sitting down with our information services department and the staff, they get asked some things that really are uncomfortable and can cross a line in terms of privacy and personal information, and we wanted to make sure that our patrons understood where we were coming from when it comes to that. So that's why there's a little more information in the policy now that I'm bringing to you for approval, just so that we can meet their expectations and they understand what we're capable of doing for them.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you. Any discussion on the proposed revision to the policy?
I was just gonna say, I did go through it, and thought it was pretty straightforward. I didn't really have any concerns with it.
I didn't think there would be, which is why I was hoping we could go for an approval tonight. I know typically the board likes to have a meeting for it to be reviewed and then to approve it.
Too many darn attorneys.
But I just think it's just more clarified for our patrons and for our staff too, to know where we can also back them in terms of boundaries as well.
Well, I'll throw out
Okay.
a little discussion that
Sure.
I think we can have. So most of this is straightforward, and most of this is really, hard to argue with. But the sentence that says reference services is provided by trained staff during all hours the library is open.
Correct,
And we're opening our library for more hours.
correct.
And I think what's worthy of discussion is if we maybe expand our other hours, is there going to come a point in time that maybe the library will be open hours, that we don't have all of the reference desks fully manned just because the library's open? I mean, might we open the library a half hour early or keep it open a half hour late? That might not be full service, but
Right.
people could come in and do more limited service. So I understand this is our current practice.
Yes.
And so forth, but I think that at least I was considering whether I wanted the policy to say the reference desk is open, all hours the library's open. Because I can see, I'm not saying it's right, but we may
We might.
not, for staffing reasons, decide that maybe the reference desk won't be open the same time as the library's open.
Right, and I appreciate the comment and your concerns for that. What I'd like to do is, right now, that is what we can provide, and we know that we're providing the service all hours that we are available. If we were to change or look at a different way of providing service, I think I'd just like to then look back at the policy and then change it from there. I don't think I want to leave us, I would like to state that we are providing that service because we can at this time.
Well, following up on that thought, how about changing it, the reference service is intended to be provided during all hours? And that gives
way
you a
it
little
leaves you-
leeway if you
yeah.
can't, but the intent is to try and do it.
I would welcome that word added. I just want, but for me, we are doing what we can and we can provide, absolutely. So it would read, reference service is intended to I'm sorry, can you repeat that, trustee Margolis?
Reference service is intended to be provided.
Okay, so we would add the words intended to
To be.
be
Yes.
after the word is. Okay.
I'm fine with that, actually. Is everyone else comfortable with that?
Are you making that a motion, trustee?
So moved.
Second.
Great, okay.
Okay. Any discussion on the amendment, which is to add the words intended to be after the word is?
Well, I don't think there's an amendment because there wasn't a motion.
Correct, there
in the
wasn't.
beginning. So really, his motion is to accept with the change. So there's no amendment.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah.
I think because nobody had made a motion before. You were correct.
And I think there was a second by trustee Verma? Yes.
Well, I think I asked the question the wrong time. I asked it if anybody agreed with the change, and so I now have this. Is there a motion for the entire policy with that language?
You're talking about an entire policy?
Yeah, the
not
entire
for-
policy.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, I move that.
You move that, or, okay, and then second?
Second.
Second? Okay. All in favor of adopting this policy as written, adding intended to be after the word is, and the line that starts with reference services is, say aye.
Aye.
opposition? You can vote. Any opposition? None. The policy is unanimously adopted.
Thank you very
For
much.
information and reference services.
Thank you.
That's all I have on my agenda. If anybody wants to make a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn. Second?
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Meeting is adjourned.
Great, thank you.